Hey guys, this is Corey from CoreyBakerFilmmaker.com, and I wanted to talk to you about seeing The Post, written by Liz Hanna and Chris Singer and directed by Steven Spielberg. First off, before I talk about the actual movie itself, like I like to do, I wanted to talk to you about the theater I saw it in. I saw some, other than the first two videos, which I saw at Regal LA Live, actually went out to a new theater for this one, the Cinemark down in Playa Vista, by the airport. Our buddy Roberto was dropping somebody off at the airport, and we wanted to see a late screening of The Post, so we decided to go closer to him. And I've always enjoyed Cinemark. The seats are great. The problem that you experience at most theaters is the same here, which is there's not enough staff, and it's a little bit slow getting your concessions. But I do like that at the very least the Cinemark sort of has like a running concession stand. So you can just run up and grab a Coke, fill it up yourself, run to the cashier, get out, go up. As long as you don't have to wait for anything like popcorn or something like that, like I had to do, then you can get through pretty quickly. It's just when you have to work with other human beings that life can get a little bit more difficult. But I definitely recommend Cinemark at Playa Vista. I've been there once before and don't see any reason why I wouldn't go back. On to The Post. I'm a little bit conflicted when it comes to The Post, honestly. I guess my number one thought is that it doesn't seem like movies used to sort of feel more like events when big people got together for the first time in something. I just imagine that we would be more excited as a culture for a movie that features Tom Hanks and Meryl Streep and it's directed by Steven Spielberg. It just feels like there's too many stars aligning for it not to be seen as this breakthrough moment in the history of film. And it was a very good movie. It felt short of what you would expect the expectation of game to be. And that's really tough. My father used to give speeches for Toastmasters, which is an organization where you give speeches. And I remember him telling me once that he was supposed to give a speech at Toastmasters, and the guy who was introducing him was just going on and on and on. He's just like, oh, Bill Baker's coming up here. Now, if you haven't heard Bill Baker speak, he's really hilarious, and I think you're going to love it. And can't wait to hear what he's going to, crazy Bill's going to say. And, I just can't tell you how hilarious this man is and how much he's going to blow you away. So Bill Baker come up on the stage, and then my dad comes up on the stage and is delivering some speech like, economic markets in China have been hard to decipher for many generations. And it just sort of like sets you up for failure a little bit when the movie isn't as good as the hype is too heavy for the movie. And I feel like people have sort of tried to die down on the hype train aspect of it, but it carries itself. Like you can't. I find it hard to believe that you'd walk into this movie without sort of understanding that this is a Hanks, Streep, and Spielberg collection, which is basically the three top names for the last 20, 30 years of filmmaking or longer. But and that it's their first. The first, obviously Hanks and Spielberg have worked together, but for Hanks, Spielberg, and Streep all in the same time, and I just thought it was a little bit of a letdown. To be honest, I feel like the two members of Mr. Show did a better job did a better acting performance in this movie than Streep and Hanks did. I thought Bob Odenkirk was just incredible. David Cross got lost in his character so much, I had to wait until the credits to just confirm that it was David Cross. I remember watching going like, that's fucking David Cross. But like I couldn't buy in at any point. I just felt like, well, maybe this is just somebody who looks amazingly like David Cross who's playing the character. But no, David Cross was incredible in it. And that's the thing. The feeling I sort of had walking out of the theater is that everybody except for Streep and Hanks, I can picture them getting a phone call from their agent or from Steven Spielberg saying like, hey, we decided to have you in The Post. Like, welcome to The Post, Sarah Paulson. And she said to herself, like, oh my God, I can't believe it. I'm in a Spielberg movie. I have to really bring my A game this time. Whereas Hanks and Streep probably, this is no big deal for them. So it just felt like another day. And it felt like, kind of felt like when you're watching a Super Bowl and Tom Brady isn't trying to do anything like more than what he usually does. He's just playing his game. He's focused. He's doing what he's got to do. That was Tom Hanks. And, like people like Bob Odenkirk or like Malcolm Butler were just like trying to make this big play and make a name for themselves and shoot up out. Like they're hungry for it. And it's not like, Bob Odenkirk has already had a very good acting career, especially recently with all the work that he did with Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. And people are just in love with him, as they should be. But it just like everyone lower on the call sheet just seemed to bring these like inspired performances. And so my list of great acting performances in The Post, I would definitely say that Sarah Paulson did a good job, but it felt a little lacking for me. Bob Odenkirk, I already mentioned. Tracy Letts was phenomenal. Bradley Whitford was great. I'm loving the second act of Bradley Whitford. Bruce Greenwood was good. Really, I love Alison Brie. I'm leader of the Alison Brie fan club. I feel like she should be in way more movies than she is, and it was glad to see her do well in this. Jesse Plemons and Zach Woods both had these like great little pieces towards the second half of the movie, and I just enjoyed them. And Deirdre Lovejoy, by the way, as the assistant, it's such a small role, but she just fucking brings it every single time. And Spielberg himself has talked about this, where his job is casting. You get a great cast, and you don't have to worry about like working with these people, working with these actors, and trying to make the performance what you want it to be. If you cast the project right, then you don't have to worry about it. And the cast in this is just phenomenal. And it's hard to say replace Streep and Hanks, but they kind of stick out in this because it feels like they're jogging when everyone else is full on sprinting. It's just weird. Admittedly, I have a weird thing about Tom Hanks because I like actors who you get so lost in their performance that you forget that it's them. Examples I like to do is like Robert De Niro. Like everyone knows what Robert De Niro looks like. So when you see him on screen, when he shows up and it's just like, oh, Robert De Niro's in this movie? And then 10 minutes later, you forget that it's Robert De Niro. You think that he's, the character that he's playing. You lose yourself in that. With Hanks, I never do. I acknowledge and admire the abilities of Tom Hanks, but I mean, I'm just never going to stop recognizing him on screen. And the fact that he plays his character so close to how he plays himself just furthers that. He's never that many steps removed from who he is as a person. And it's sort of hard to do that. Now Meryl does that great. Meryl will fall into a role all the time. I feel that for whatever reason this just didn't seem like the great Meryl Streep performance that we would be expected to get. Now, again, all this is sort of nitpicky. I think that the overall conversation about this movie has to be about the floor and the ceiling that could possibly happen. When you get a movie that's written this well and obviously you have have one of the best directors ever in Steven Spielberg. You have Hanks, you got Streep, you got Paulson, you got Alison Brie, you got Plemons, you got Woods, you got Odenkirk, you got Cross, you got all these people. It makes it so much easier to produce a good movie when you already have so many advantages in your favor. If this movie was directed by Michael Bay, just for argument's sake, then you could say that the floor of this movie might be lower. Like Michael Bay has produced movies that are worse than this, so you can know that he would possibly make a less interesting version of The Post. But I think that the ceiling was so high on this movie, and it felt like a bit of a tease that it just wasn't better. Two other quick additional thoughts. Number one, for a movie that sort of discusses the empowerment of women and like how Meryl Streep's character specifically sort of finds her footing in a male-dominated world, there seems to be a lot of strong women who should, I mean, like, Sarah Paulson's entire character kind of bothered me because, you know, she was supportive and she wants, you know, her husband, Tom Hanks, to do well, but he's also, like, sort of rushing out the door and just being like, don't wait up for me, honey. Fucking hope the roast is on the oven by the time I get home. Like, you know, it's very... I wasn't alive in the, you know, 60s, 70s when most of the story is taking place, but it just... It felt like a terrible waste of Sarah Paulson. I feel like you could have... You could have put Alison Brie in that role, given her a little bit more space, and just have avoided hiring Sarah Paulson and just not using her, because she's just so... Why would you have an actor of that caliber just not really having any kind of a development? And that's really the number one thing that really burns me about this is the lack of use of Sarah Paulson. Finally, the last thing I wanted to mention before I get out of here is that if you haven't seen the tweet from Liz Hannah about the opening of the Post, I'll put it right up here. It's wonderful that in this day and age we still have these stories, these touchstones about not giving up on your dreams, not calling it quits. And Liz Hannah was this close to calling it quits when the Post started taking over the blacklist. And your first big, huge break, and it's a film directed by Spielberg starring Hanks and Streep. And I just can't be happier for Liz Hannah. I thought that the script, both what she and Singer did together, was very good. You know, like most movies these days, I think you could have reasonably cut 15 to 20 minutes out of it, and people wouldn't have missed it. But I'm also more inclined to... I'm already at the theater. I'm already going to be there for, you know, at least 30 minutes, or at least an hour, 30 minutes. So, you know, 2 hours, 2.5 hours, what does it really make a difference at that point? So, going to the leaderboard. This is number 1 on the list for Cinemark, Playa Vista. And again, Smalley's Game and I, Tonya, which are the 2 movies I've reviewed so far. I would put The Post at number 3 with a 7.7. Again, it's very good, but not exceptional, and not quite exactly what you would hope for with Spielberg, Hanks, and Streep. But that is my thoughts alone. If you have different thoughts or want to argue with me or want to say, hey, Corey, great job, really figuring that one out, then leave me a comment or review. Share this if you like it. You can find more of my stuff at CoreyBakerFilmmaker.com and at Facebook.com/CoreyBakerFilm, and on Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat at LegendCB5. Have a great day, everyone.